They always told me Snapchat was the safe app, the one where your messages disappear, your snaps vanish, and no one can keep receipts of the dumb jokes you send at 2 a.m. My name is Marissa Hale, and for the longest time, Snapchat was my comfort zone. A little yellow ghost on my phone meant connection, friends, life as a normal teenager. I used it the way every 15-year-old does. Streaks with my best friend, late-night filters that made us look like puppies, tiny videos of my room when I couldn't sleep. It was ordinary, routine. I thought it was private. But the thing about apps like Snapchat is that they don't just connect you to your friends. They open doors. Doors you never realized you'd left unlocked. One night, a message came through from what looked like one of my closest friends' accounts. The Bitmoji looked right. The username was off by one letter, something you wouldn't notice unless you stared at it too long. The message said only, "Why are you lying to us?" I froze. My hands went clammy. Lying about what? To who? I tapped out a reply, then deleted it before I hit send. Something about the words didn't feel like her. It felt staged, like someone pretending. And that was the first breadcrumb. The first clue that something wasn't right. At first I brushed it off. Maybe it was some kind of prank. People make fake accounts all the time, right? But then another message came. Everyone knows what you did. My chest tightened. What I did? I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. My thumbs hovered, but I didn't reply. I just locked the phone and shoved it under my pillow, like that could bury the unease clawing at my stomach. The next morning, though, it was still there, another snap waiting. This time it wasn't words, it was a picture. My own front yard, taken from the street in the early hours before sunrise. The porch light glowed faintly in the corner. The photo was angled just right, like whoever took it had been standing out there, watching. I remember my breath catching, my hands trembling so hard I almost dropped the phone. I told myself it had to be a coincidence. Maybe someone pulled the photo from Google Maps. Maybe it was old. But deep down, I knew. The shadows in the picture looked too fresh. The wet sheen on the asphalt, that had to be from last night's rain. By then, it wasn't just about a fake username. Whoever this was, they weren't hiding behind a screen anymore. They were here, near me. And the part that chilled me most, the account was still dressed up in my best friend's face. Same Bitmoji smile, same inside jokes in the profile bio. It felt like betrayal, even though I knew it wasn't really her. I wanted to tell someone, my parents maybe, but what would I say? That a Snapchat ghost account sent me a creepy message and a picture of our yard? They'd laugh it off, tell me to delete the app. So I stayed quiet. But inside I felt something shift. My safe app, my safe world, it was gone. I started noticing things after that night. Little things that I tried to convince myself were just my imagination. The blinds in my bedroom half open when I swore I had shut them tight. The faint sound of gravel crunching in our driveway when everyone else was asleep. Even the family dog, Buddy, would sometimes growl low at the front door, hackles raised, as if he sensed something I couldn't see. Every ping from Snapchat made my stomach twist. I wanted to delete the app, to throw my phone across the room and be done with it. But I couldn't. What if they posted something? What if they told lies to my friends using my face, my name? It felt like I was trapped inside the app itself, chained to that little yellow ghost. Then came the snap that broke me. A photo of me taken through my own bedroom window. I was sitting at my desk, my back to the glass, scrolling through homework on my laptop. In the picture, my head was tilted just so, the blue of the screen painting my face. Whoever took it had been standing right outside, just a few feet away, camera lifted, phone steady. I dropped the phone. My body shook so violently I could barely breathe. I didn't scream, didn't move, didn't even turn to look at the window. I was frozen, the way animals freeze when they know a predator is near. That night, I pushed my dresser against the door. I shoved pillows into the blinds, blocking every gap. I didn't sleep, I just sat there, heart pounding, watching the shadows crawl across my walls, waiting for another ping. And when it came just before dawn, it wasn't a picture, it was a message. Pretty when you're scared. I knew then this wasn't random, it wasn't a prank. Someone was hunting me, and Snapchat was just the mask they wore. By the third week, I wasn't myself anymore. My friends noticed, my mom noticed, even my teachers noticed. I wasn't sleeping. I jumped whenever someone touched my shoulder, and I stopped going out at night altogether. But the worst part, I felt dirty in my own skin. Every time I walked into a room, I wondered if someone was watching me. I stopped showering at night because the bathroom window was too close to the street. I stopped singing in my room because I imagined someone recording my voice. It all came crashing down the night I found a sticky note under my car's windshield. No envelope, no signature, just one sentence in smudged black ink. "Why are you ignoring me?" That was it. No name, no explanation, just proof that whoever had been snapping me was now close enough to touch my car, close enough to be in my driveway. I broke down. For the first time, I told my mom everything. I showed her the snaps, the laughing face, the one through my window, the message that made my blood run cold. She didn't hesitate. We called the police right there in the kitchen. They came fast. 2 officers sat across from us at the table, jotting down notes while I retold everything. But as I spoke, I felt this deep, gnawing dread, like I was wasting my breath. Like nothing they wrote on their little pads could protect me from someone who had already been inside my world, inside my space. And I was right. The officer nodded, told me to block the account, and assured me it was probably just some kid pulling a prank. He even laughed under his breath. But then I pulled out my phone and showed them the photo, the one of me through the window. His face dropped. The laughter vanished. He leaned back in his chair, cleared his throat, and asked the question I'd been too afraid to ask myself. "Has anyone you know been acting obsessive lately?" That night, patrol cars drove by our street a few times just to check in, but deep down I knew the cops couldn't stay forever, and I knew whoever was sending those snaps wasn't finished, because the moment the cruisers pulled away and the house went quiet again, my phone buzzed. Another snap. This one said, "You shouldn't have told." After that last message, "You shouldn't have told," I couldn't breathe in my own house anymore. Every corner felt wrong. Every creak in the walls sounded like footsteps. For 2 nights straight, I slept in my mom's room. But by the 3rd night, I convinced myself maybe the worst had passed. Maybe the police patrols had scared him off. Maybe whoever it was had moved on. I was wrong. It happened on a Friday night. I'd just stepped out of the shower, the mirror fogged, steam curling around the light bulb. My phone buzzed on the counter. One new Snapchat. My stomach turned and my hand shook as I unlocked the screen. It was a photo of me, taken right there in that exact moment through the blurry bathroom window. My wet hair, my towel, the steam around me, it was all there. And at the bottom in neon yellow text, "You look better when you're scared." I screamed so loud my mom came running. She saw it. She saw the proof that I wasn't imagining things. She called 911 while I locked myself in the bathroom, crying, clutching the phone like it was the only weapon I had. The police showed up within minutes, but by then, he was gone. No footprints in the mud outside, no fingerprints on the glass, just silence, thick and choking, like the night itself was holding its breath. That was the turning point. They finally believed me. They took the phone, made copies, and opened an official investigation. But the damage was already done, because after that night, I wasn't just a girl with a stalker online. I was a girl who knew someone had stood just feet away from her, watching, recording, laughing at her fear. And when you've been hunted like that, there's no such thing as feeling safe again. After that night, everything changed. Snapchat, the app that once felt like my safe corner of the internet, was deleted from my phone. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't even look at the little yellow ghost without feeling sick. The police worked for weeks tracing the accounts. They showed us printouts, timelines, IP addresses, and slowly the mask started to slip. The person hiding behind all those fake usernames wasn't a stranger halfway across the world. It was someone who lived close by. Someone who had studied my routines, followed me home, and turned my own phone into a weapon against me. When they finally arrested him, I thought I would feel relief. I didn't. Because even with him gone, his word stayed. The screenshots, the photos, the sound of my phone buzzing in the middle of the night. Trauma doesn't just vanish the way a Snapchat message does. It lingers. It waits in the dark. And here's the part that still keeps me up. Snapchat gave him the perfect cover. Messages disappearing, usernames easy to fake, photos sent with no trace. All the features that made it fun for kids like me also made it a playground for predators. I tell my story now because I want people to understand. The danger isn't just in dark alleys or abandoned roads. Sometimes it's in your hand, glowing at 2 a.m., smiling back at you through a cartoon ghost. I thought Snapchat was safe. I thought messages disappeared. But the fear never disappears. I loved social media. I was on every possible site, be it Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or Snapchat. When you are the star quarterback of your college, having a social media presence is a must. I was at the State University for a degree in architecture, a 4-year-long degree, and I was in my second year. I had a big group of friends, mostly people from my team and my classes. But because I was on the team, almost everyone knew me. I lived in an apartment off campus alone. My girlfriend, Melanie, slept over a few times a week, but mostly I was alone here. This was my place away from the cramped dorm rooms. On a weeknight, I stayed up playing video games with my squad till after midnight. I had a test the next day, so I decided to hit the hay before I had to wake up early for practice. Just as I lay in bed and shot a goodnight text to Melanie, I received a Snap notification. If any of you do not know what Snapchat is, it's basically a social media app where you can share pictures and videos with your friends. But the catch is that the sent pictures or videos will appear on the receiver's end for a few moments only. The sender can select how long he or she wants the receiver to see the picture. The picture then disappears without a trace. On our campus, this app was famous for people sharing weird or even spicy pictures. Thinking one of my friends must have sent me a picture, I opened the app, only to find a snap from Melanie. I smiled to myself, thinking my girl must have sent me a picture of her from her bed. She often sent me a goodnight picture of herself tucked in her bed. But the second I opened the snap, it was a picture of my girlfriend sleeping peacefully on her bed. It was clicked from the door of her room. I squinted at the picture, but before I could get a good look, the picture disappeared. Sleep clouded my eyes, but I was so confused. If she was on her bed, how did she click that picture and send it to me? I was about to call her when I received another snap, once again from her account. I opened it fully expecting to find a goofy video of her explaining how she had learned a new camera trick or something. But it was another picture of her sleeping peacefully on her bed. However, this was clicked from maybe 10 steps away from her bed. Even this time, the picture disappeared all too quickly. Now I was really worried. Every trace of sleep had disappeared with the disappearance of the picture, as she lived alone in her dorm room. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail, her sweet voice telling me to leave a message. Before I could call once again, another Snap notification pops up. I clicked on the notification, and another picture of a very peacefully sleeping Melanie popped up on my phone screen. This time, however, the camera was just a few steps away from her. I got off my bed and got dressed in haste, ready to drive back to campus to my girlfriend. I had just stepped out of my apartment when my phone pinged. It was another Snap. I clicked it open, only this time the picture was not only heartbreaking, but scary, too. It was a close-up of Melanie. Only her face and neck were visible in the shot, and her neck was bare only for the long, curved cut that slicked her neck open. And the pillowcase was drenched with her spilt blood. In the previous pictures, I had just assumed the color of her pillowcase was a deep maroon, but that wasn't what paralyzed me in fear. It was the message written on the small piece of paper placed by her pillow. I am coming for you, too. What did it even mean? I held myself together and drove to the campus, only to find a swarm of students, teachers, campus security, and cops below Melanie's dorm. The second they spotted me coming, the detectives pulled me aside, not even letting me see her before they wheeled her into an ambulance. I told them everything about the snaps and noticed 8 of my team members were looking at me funny, as if they understood the terror I felt. "Did you too get the snaps?" "Yes," the detective replied instead of my friends, but none of us could show them the snaps. The worst part was that all the snaps were sent from Melanie's phone itself, meaning the killer was in her dorm room. 2 weeks later, at exactly 1 a.m., all of us received another series of snaps. This time it was Drake, our linebacker. He too was murdered in his dorm room, and the 7 of us got the notifications. The whole campus was on high alert. No one knew who the culprit was or why we were being targeted. 5 of my teammates decided to take a break from school and went back home, but Jordan and I could not afford to do that. 2 weeks had passed from the time Drake was killed, and I was scared. That night, I checked my locks twice and shut all the windows. I lived on the 4th floor, so no one would climb into my home through my window. Fear, exhaustion, and grief were draining me, so I went out like the light once I hit my bed. However, as I woke the next morning, 7 snaps had been sent to me. All 7 were from my teammates who were being targeted along with me. And every snap had the same confused expression on my friends' faces as they looked at me. The text below their snaps read, "Who is the strange man lying beside you on the bed?" I sprang up from my bed and looked around. No one was in my apartment, but my bedroom window was open, which I clearly remembered closing shut. I called the detective as I panicked in my apartment. "I think I am next," I whispered into the phone as soon as the detective picked up. "I will be there soon. Stay put in your apartment." I was escorted to the police precinct by the detective and 2 more cops, and as I sit in the police station clutching my phone, surrounded by cops who would protect me, I get a snap notification. I open it before I can notify the detective, and this time it's Jordan. But the words on the wall behind Jordan's bed are, "You can't hide forever, Justin." Who is doing this, and why?
Hello, I'm Jake. I'm a local baker from a pretty quiet neighborhood where nothing ever happened. As soon as I graduated from high school, I ended up in this job. I couldn't continue studying since I had to support my parents financially, and, to tell the truth, I didn't feel ready for great things either. My job was honest. Boring, but honest. Still, I always tried to keep a positive attitude. But let's not focus on me. Let's focus on my sister. Emily was the pride of the family. We were all excited about her future. In a few weeks, she would be off to college, the first in our family to achieve something so great. It was no wonder. She had worked hard, and all of us, including my parents and me, were proud of her. Emily was always the bright one. From a young age, she excelled at everything she did. She won math contests, was captain of the debate team, and even was elected student council president in high school. My parents always talked about her with that twinkle in their eyes that they couldn't hide. I was very happy for her too. I always told myself that even though I hadn't achieved much, at least I was a good brother, supporting Emily in everything she did. As the day of her departure approached, the house was filled with preparations and goodbyes. My parents would host dinners with friends and family to celebrate, and I would join in the general merriment. After all, she was my little sister, and I was happy to see her happy and excited about her new adventure. Unfortunately, everything would begin to take a rather dark turn. One night, while I was working at the bakery, Emily sent me a message on Snapchat. It said she had received something weird from my account. It puzzled me, as I didn't remember sending her anything. My Snapchat account was abandoned. I didn't even use the app. The message she received was a threat. Someone had told her that she would never make it to college alive. That message seemed like the scariest message I had ever seen in my life. Had I left Snapchat open at a friend's house? Maybe I had been hacked. I quickly replied, telling her it wasn't me. I tried to calm her down, saying that these things happen all the time. She pretended to be calm so I would stay calm. But I knew her. She was not well. The next few days were weird. Emily started receiving more messages from my account, each one more disturbing than the last. The messages were very direct and scary. Some said that no matter what, she would die. Others said that she would be shot and that they would look her in the eye later as her life was lost. Emily, who had always been strong and confident, began to appear nervous and scared. At first, my parents were angry with me, thinking it was me, but they soon understood that this was something much more serious than a prank. Someone was stalking her on Snapchat. Emily, who was about to leave the family home to start a new life, began to isolate herself. She blocked me from Snapchat, but within hours, she started getting messages from accounts she didn't follow. The problem continued on Instagram, WhatsApp, and even Facebook. I understood everything that was happening. Someone wanted to isolate her, to take her out of the networks, and they were succeeding. The sparkle in her eyes was fading, and her enthusiasm for college was fading. Whoever was doing this was not only very clever, but also very cruel. As the days went by, the situation got worse. Emily confessed to me one night that she sometimes saw a person watching her outside the house, through the window. This person never showed his face, but could see a part of her. He had a beard and looked much bigger than us. It was a terrifying person. The situation only got worse. Every time I was gone, she would lock herself in a room with the curtains closed and the lights on. My parents and I called the police. I told them what was going on, about the messages and about the man Emily had seen. The officers took notes and asked a few questions, but in the end, couldn't do much. They checked the house and the surrounding area, but found nothing suspicious. Still, they promised to patrol our street more often. The night that changed everything, my parents were out of town on a work trip. Emily and I were left home alone. Suddenly, the lights went out completely. The house was pitch black. I could hear Emily holding her breath, paralyzed with fear. I turned on the flashlight on my phone, illuminating the living room. I tried to calm her down, saying it was probably a power outage. Then we heard footsteps. Someone was inside the house. Through the darkness, we distinguished a figure moving in the courtyard. It was a man, dirty and disheveled, who seemed to be looking for something, or someone. Before I could do anything, I saw him move toward the security camera we had installed at the entrance. In one fell swoop, he smashed it. I told Emily to go lock us in her room, and she complied and went with me. We both locked ourselves in. Emily took out her phone and tried to call the police, but she couldn't. Do you know why? Because I took the phone out of her hands. She looked at me, confused, and I started laughing out loud. It wasn't a laugh of relief or nervousness, and I certainly hadn't lost my mind. It was a laugh of happiness. I had her right where I wanted her. I confessed everything to her. It was I who slowly drove her crazy, who made her believe she was being stalked. It gave me pleasure to watch the perfect Emily crumble. Her fairy tale life turned into a nightmare. I enjoyed every second of watching that spoiled brat in a golden cradle panic, begging me to help her. As usual, Big Brother had to postpone his life for her. I paid that bum to terrorize her, to make sure her fear was real. I thought everything through carefully, and it all came out perfectly. Maybe my parents would be proud to see that I am smart. And you know what the best part of it all is? You, who are listening to this story, thought I was the good guy. You thought I was worried about the brat, right? You ate up every lie I told while you thought a hacker or a bum was stalking my sister on Snapchat. Emily, see this? You know what this is, Emily? This is the end. This is the end of you. Why? You were always my best friend. I always trusted you. Why are you doing this to me? Because I am no one's shadow. The shot echoed through the house. Emily fell to the floor, her limp body on the blood-soaked carpet. I stood there, watching her life slip away, just as I had promised her on Snapchat. With the last of her energy left, she looked at me, crying. Hey, don't look at me like that. You should be happy. For the next few days, you'll be the star of the family again. Before she died, I emptied the magazine in her face. I leaned over her and whispered in her ear, even though I knew she could no longer hear me. What good has it done you to be so special, little sister? Then I got up and opened the door. The tramp, that poor devil I had paid to do his part, was waiting. I handed him the gun and a handful of bills. Get lost. He simply obeyed me and left. I stayed in the house, surrounded by darkness, knowing exactly what I was supposed to do next. After enjoying a few seconds of peace, I picked up the phone and called the police. I told them that someone had broken into the house, that the man pointed the gun at us, and that in full view of me, he shot and killed her. I got away with it. No one suspected me. The homeless man was never arrested, but the blame fell on him anyway, since he was caught on camera before he destroyed them, as I told you. The man sure is lying in a ditch drunk, but they think he is a dangerous hacker who became obsessed with a successful and happy girl. Today, I have a normal life. I got married. I have a family. No one around me suspects what I did. And here I am, telling this story, not because I feel guilty or because I want to redeem myself. No, I am telling it because it amuses me. Because I know that neither you nor anyone else can do anything about it. If you ever see me on the street, you won't recognize me. I'm just a good man who sells bread. A man who lost his sister, but who is positive and does everything he can to make his parents happy. Today, I am the favorite son, and there is not a day that goes by that I don't tell anecdotes about my sister and cry in front of my parents saying how much I miss her.
It all started as a dumb game. Nothing more than a distraction to pass the time between classes. I remember downloading Snapchat because everyone in college was using it. Sharing photos, videos, filters, all of that had become part of the routine in college. I was looking for filters for photos. Then I found it. A new Shrek filter. Everyone in college was a Shrek fan, and how could we not be? At the time, Shrek was the global phenomenon. The only thing that bothered me was that the filter was incredibly sensitive. You could apply it anywhere, and Shrek's face would appear even on distant objects. Not only that, but sometimes I would even apply the filter in places where there was absolutely nothing and no one in the air. Anyway, it was the best designed and the funniest Shrek Snapchat filter. It may sound very childish, and it is, but something about taking pictures with the Shrek filter was just too much fun for me. It was when Mike, my roommate, had that accident that things started to get weird. It was a night like any other. We were both in the room, him at his desk, me lying on the bed with my cell phone in hand. Suddenly, I heard a loud knock. I turned around and saw Mike on the floor, unconscious. His chair was upside down and his laptop had fallen to the side. It all happened in just a matter of seconds. I ran to him and shook him to see if he would react, but he didn't. I called 911 while trying to wake him up, but he didn't respond. It looked like he had fallen and hit his head, but something didn't fit. The way he was down, how does a chair fall backward like that? That night, they took him to the hospital, and I was left alone in the room. The doctors said he had suffered a very bad blow to the head, and they would have to do more tests. I usually stay up late, but this time, I wasn't going to be able to sleep. I had been shocked by what, out of the blue, had happened to my roommate. The next day, I returned to the room after class and found it quiet. Mike always got out of class before me, so it was strange to find the room empty. But he hadn't come back yet, and I don't know when he would. It felt a little uncomfortable, but I tried to shake that feeling, telling myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me after Mike's accident. But then, the strange thing started. Mike's bedside table behind me fell out of nowhere. I was petrified with fear, but I also noticed that the window was open. Surely that was the reason why the bedside table had fallen. I stopped to close the window and sat back down to study. As much as I tried to read, it was impossible. All the tension and the shock had knocked me out of my mind. I wanted to distract myself a bit, so at that moment I thought of something. I would use Snapchat to take a picture of the fallen candlestick. When Mike came back, he would freak out for sure. I took out my cell phone and started snapping in that direction without realizing that I had the Shrek filter on. When I realized it, I was about to take the filter off when I realized something else. The filter was back in the air, but this time in a different way. The filter was frozen, as if someone was standing next to the candlestick, staring at me. It was perfectly placed 2 meters above the floor, and it was moving as if it was breathing. as if it was placed on a living thing. I froze, not knowing what to do. This couldn't be real. Maybe it was just a glitch in the app. But when that face began to approach me in human form, as if walking, I knew it wasn't my imagination. This wasn't a simple software bug. Something was there. Something my eyes couldn't see, but the filter could. The face approached so fast that I didn't have time to react. I dropped the phone in a panic and it fell to the floor. When I looked in front of me with the naked eye, there was nothing there. Suddenly, I heard a noise to my left. I turned quickly and saw that a book had fallen from the shelf. There was no one else in the room, but I felt a cold draft run down my back. I tried to ignore it, but the knocking continued, louder, more insistent. But now it was obvious that something was going on. My first and only impulse was to run from the room. But if there was something there that I could see, it wouldn't let me go. I knew what I had to do. I plucked up my courage and grabbed my phone off the floor. I opened Snapchat and, without thinking, activated the Shrek filter again. This time, I pointed it at the shelf to see if I could detect anything. There, standing next to the bookshelf, was a figure. I couldn't see it clearly, but I knew it was there because the filter had detected it. Shrek's face hovered right there where its head should be, but it was much larger, more grotesque. The figure stood there, motionless, watching me. I tried to calm myself down and think that this could be a good thing. If the figure was there, it meant that there was nothing to stop me from leaving behind. I couldn't be more wrong. I pointed the camera at the door and saw another silhouette, about the same height, standing just inside the entrance. That's when it hit me. There were at least 5 figures in the room with me. Before I could react, the figure on the shelf moved. It was so fast, too fast. It lunged at me with brutal force, and I felt as if a wave of energy had hit me in the chest, throwing me against the wall. The pain was immediate and wrenching. My head hit the wall with such force that I thought I would pass out, but fear kept me conscious. Fear that if I closed my eyes, those things would kill me. I tried to get up, but my legs wouldn't respond. The figure was on top of me. In a last desperate effort, I reached for my phone, which had fallen nearby. I picked it up and pointed it at the figure. Maybe the filter could tell me where it was coming from. Maybe I could avoid it. Today, I think about it and regret having picked up that camera. When I filmed, I realized that the other figures were also coming towards me, slowly. They were about to kill me. Suddenly, I felt a hand choking me. I was losing my breath rapidly. I tried to punch in the direction where the figure was, but I couldn't hit anything. Suddenly, the figure stopped choking me, picked me up with his other hand, and threw me out the window. The glass shattered as I went through it. The impact on the ground was brutal. It felt as if every bone in my body broke at the same time. I screamed in pain, but I was alive. Something neither I nor surely the invisible figure considered would happen. Everything became a blur after that. I vaguely remember the sound of sirens and the flashing lights of the ambulance. I was taken to the hospital, and from then on, I only remember more pain. The doctors told me that I had suffered multiple fractures and that I would be lucky to walk normally again. When I finally became conscious again, I saw Mike in the bed next to me. He was awake, but his expression was one of pure terror. He told me that while I was with him, he felt a very strong impulse that pulled him down, that it wasn't just an accident. Neither of us knew what happened, but the important thing was that now we were safe. We knew we couldn't go back to that room, so we asked for a room change, explaining that what we had experienced had been too traumatizing, although we didn't mention ghosts or spirits. I didn't want to go back to that room ever again, but Mike was encouraged to go with me to pick up his things, and incidentally, some of mine. He would go in with 2 friends for safety and get out as fast as he could. I waited outside the room while Mike and his friends went in. Time passed slowly, and when I realized they had been in there too long, I knew something was wrong. I pulled my wheelchair up to the door and opened it. Mike and his friends were sprawled across the room. Their bodies were twisted at impossible angles, with broken bones and blood everywhere. Mike's eyes were open. His neck broken. The horror on his face was the last thing he had felt before he died. Terrified, not knowing how to react, I pulled out my camera and opened Snapchat. All the shadows were still inside the room, standing, looking in my direction, inviting me in. I left that place as fast as my chair would let me, and soon after, I left the university as well. That was also the last time I ever used a Snapchat filter or any cell phone camera. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I know the truth. You never know when, because you want to take a picture with a funny filter, that you might be sealing your death sentence.